Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Rebellious Wellness Lifestyle. Today, my guest, Stephanie George, and I are going to have a conversation about, oh dear, all things women at transition, at decision-making inflections in their life, keeping our dignity, etc. She has created an organization, which we'll talk more about. It's called the Meraki Project. And first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Stephanie. Stephanie, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, you had quite a career. You've worn many hats, everything from Wall Street analyst to C-suite in telecommunications and technology. You've led companies through major transitions, which resulted in growth, which is a good thing, and market leadership. And now you stepped away from all that and just decided, I'm leaving, I'm going to do my own thing. And here you are with the Meraki Project. Can you just give us a little bit about that period of your life where you just woke up one day and said, I have to do something different?
It's really funny because when you put it that way, it sounds really scary.
Well, I think you wrote at one point in my life, I decided to make this big decision.
Absolutely.
Sounded scary to me.
It is scary. And it's ironic in a way because a lot of my career was about navigating organizations through transition. And there I was realizing, wow, I need to navigate my own life transition. And just in the spirit of the doctor's kids are always sick. I think it took a little bit of prodding. It didn't really just happen all at once. I think it just was creeping up on me over time. I think my way of answering that question is it just reached a tipping point where I felt that I was showing up in places where I wasn't able to put my whole self into it. And that just felt like an injustice, not just to me, but to the people around me. So I think that was the tipping point for me, feeling as though it doesn't bring me joy and it didn't really feel like I was in it as much as I should have been.
Which brings us to the name of your project, Meraki, which means, tell the audience.
It's hard to translate, and as many words, it's a Greek word, although I think there's others around the Greek, around the Greeks that would claim it. But I think that it really is this place where you immerse yourself fully into something, and it's doing so with creativity, soul, and love. And it is a powerful word that is more of a feeling than an action.
And that's what you were looking for when you realized you weren't getting that where you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I was thinking about where I was and what I wanted to do, I don't think I was thinking about Meraki, but what I was thinking about was, as you do, you reflect. And I was thinking about my mom. And in growing up, one of my memorable times with her was just her immersion in painting. She immigrated here from Greece. She really didn't speak the language fluently till she was much older. And she would find this flow and this kind of joy in painting. And for her, I like to think that's her Meraki. That's a place where she can go, where she feels that she is making an intentional choice about what she wants to do. And so that's what I see when I think about Meraki.
That's a lovely place to be, it sounds like to me, which is not, it's not every woman's experience. Let's just say everybody floating along, they're happy where they are, they're thriving, and something that comes along, there's a transition, there's an inflection point, and it could be health, it could be money, it could be right, all these things. In general, like Western medicine, we take each of those things and compartmentalize it and separate it from the rest. But we all know you could be doing really well and something comes along. It's not just going to affect your health or your finances, wherever that thing is. It affects every piece of you. And I sense from what you're talking about doing with the Meraki Project is serving those women. You have some data that says women don't know where to go to be heard, or seen. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, that's exactly where we started. Having been in corporate environments and having led brands for many years and strategy, where I started was I had a hypothesis really personally based on me and the women around me who were my contemporaries. And we had grown through this post Gloria Steinem kind of disruption and had been given a lot of opportunities that maybe the prior generation hadn't. But we found ourselves at this point in midlife where we had lost sense of our identity. We didn't know quite where we were going, or it just wasn't feeling, as you said, like we were thriving. And we did the research. We went out and talked to 1,000 women in quantitative and qualitative research studies and found exactly what you said. There were four sort of top tier moments of transition for women. And these were women in midlife. That's where we're focused for now. And it was exactly, I'm having a health event, and it's not just about my health, it's how can I afford? Do I have what I need to get through that? What does it mean for my work? Who's going to help me with my children or my adult family? And maybe the health event may not even be her own, it may be her family's. The second area was money and finance. And what we found, there was a great deal of shame with women around money, this fear that they didn't have enough or that they didn't really know how to talk to their financial advisor, that their understanding of money was either left to the man in the household, if that's the way the household was structured, or that it wasn't really something that they had access to making those decisions. And then the same with relationships. I'm going through a divorce, I'm changing my relational. And again, how does that affect my family? How does that affect my finances? How does that affect my stress and my health? So we saw that in each of those four top areas of transition, and there are more, it's not
Of
exclusive,
course.
but those bubble to the top. They were so enmeshed and intertwined that many of the systems serving women, when we started to scan the landscape, were focused really on each of those individually and in a silo. And so we thought, let's turn this on its head and let's focus on the transition as opposed to the silo.
Yeah, and I mentioned Western medicine. I'm studying functional medicine at the moment, which is, as they say, root cause medicine. The body is all one thing. Mind and the body is very important. Let's talk about what you're talking about. A woman is now getting divorced, a divorcee. That's all we see her as. Or a woman has financial issues and she doesn't know what to do or where to go. And there's the shame piece. And labels are a big part of our existence, unfortunately. But again, that siloing, that breaking down a soul into pieces that are either thriving or not thriving exclusively. It doesn't work that way. And I'm glad that you're addressing it. You talk a lot about dignity. And during these transitions, it would be easy, we talk about shame, it would be easy to lose your dignity if you were ever aware that you had it to begin
Mm.
with. Dignity is not a word I think that we relate to. I certainly would not until I read your thing. I'm like, gosh, do I have dignity in what I do? Like, it was just a concept that I hadn't thought of. So why is dignity important?
I think you had that you were just talking about that, and I think that is so important. I'm so glad you brought up dignity because it does feel like a hard word or one that I think is everyone realizes that dignity is a big word, but
Mm.
there's not a clear, concrete way of necessarily understanding it. The way we've thought about it and the way it relates to Meraki is essentially Meraki is what dignity feels like. So when you have the ability to make intentional choices, that you've been put in a place where your dignity is being honored. And I would just say one thing, what I've come to learn in my own understanding of dignity is it is inherent. So it also unites us, which I think is another thing that is important to all humans, but I think for women, particularly navigating transitions, feeling that they're not alone, feeling that they're seen is a really important part of the experience. So that's the other reason dignity resonated for us because it
Hmm.
feels like it's there and it should be honored. And while it can be violated, it can never ever be taken away. And so in some way, it's much more unifying. And maybe that's idealistic, but it was a way for us to create this understanding of the type of help and support that women need at these transitions.
I also, when I'm thinking about what your project might look like, because I know you're in beta, but there's still great information at your site. It actually is MerakiDignity.com as opposed to the Meraki Project. I was thinking about as women, so if we don't feel that we have dignity, because we've never had the conversation, it's very easy to get caught up in these transitions and feel not seen, not heard, no dignity, no agency. That's one of my favorite words is for aging, is that we remain with a sense of agency. And you talk about making decisions
Intentionally.
where intent, no matter what's going on, you have the agency or the power, you are empowered to make your own decisions. And that's another thing. If women could go to a place that says to them, here you are,
Yes,
you are, we're giving you back you, which sounds like what this project might be attempting to do, is remind us who we are. The dignity doesn't go away. The empowerment doesn't go away. It might just get buried under the stuff. And I think it's really, I just think there needs to be more of this. And you said maybe it's whatever you said about conjoining, bringing people together, and maybe that's a big wish. Even if you bring little bits of people together into small
exactly.
communities these days, I think we're so fractured. And so small communities, big, hundreds, thousands, billions of people, either way, you're going to be creating more of that in the world, right? Because a little bit begets more.
Exactly. It's generative. I love
Yeah.
that. I really believe it is generative. And I think one of the challenges when I started, we really focused on equity and the word equity. And I know these are just words, but from my standpoint, kind of
Words have
the
power.
words have power. And what had happened was that equity has been co-opted as a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
So someone wins at someone else's expense, and a woman gets a job at a man's expense. And so it became this broken narrative, and we just kept going back to equity. And not that I don't believe in equity, it just felt like, for me, bumping my head against the wall. So that was where dignity was this uniting force. Who's going to argue that you have dignity and I have dignity?
Right.
Who's going to argue? I'm not taking it. And in fact, exactly what you said, if we honor each other's dignity and we create a place, and we can talk a little bit more specifically about the platform itself and how we think about dignity there. But if we can create a place that honors that, then that should be generative. That should leave everyone feeling like they've gained something, as opposed to feeling that someone lost in order for someone to get ahead.
Which is one of the heartbreaks of our,
Ugh,
I don't know what, I don't even know where to position it in life, but that people can be so mean to other people, but women can be really hard on other women in any structure, corporate, at home, your mother-in-law, your position as sisters. It's been so, it has generated more
yes,
of the same, but I think there is a bigger conversation happening now about supporting women. And
right.
even let's talk about, so it's not always a lateral support, and it's not like looking down on other people and bringing them up, which is great too. But sometimes it's the people next to us, colleagues, as you say, friends. Are we putting enough effort into that, supporting those as well as these big transition points? I think it's an everyday
I
thing.
I agree. And I think, look, I think there's this musical chairs where I think women feel that there have been so few spots in whatever place they're
Yeah.
in. So it creates this unfortunate tension. And I agree, I also agree what we've found is peer to peer. I think Pew just came out with a piece that I really
Oh
appreciated,
yeah.
Pew Research, around 67% of people. Clearly, people want more personalized healthcare. There's no question. But what we're finding, what they found, is that the peer-to-peer communication among people around health, in their case, talking about health, really is a way to support people. So even if you have the clinical and personalized resources, I think just knowing someone else
Mm.
having a similar experience and understanding how they may have navigated it is a place where we could connect. So that's one of the main features of our platform that we feel is differentiating. You can certainly come and get resources and knowledge, but we also feel that it's a place where you can connect with other women who are navigating similar challenges, transitions, pivot points in their life.
Someplace other than, don't get me
Right.
wrong.
Well, no,
Don't get me wrong. I use Reddit for certain things.
exactly. And look, there is a place, but I think that our thought was there's so much information, but there's not as much personalized and individualized and tailored for women. And then the fact that there's so much information has created a lot of confusion around what's real and what's not real, and what to believe and what not to believe. And not to suggest that we're the arbiters of what to believe, but if we can create a filter that is evidence-based, so just a way for our our advisors to curate for
Hmm.
women, get through the mess and the noise, and then to also curate it to be female or women informed so that
Hmm.
women are learning about how to diagnose a heart attack from the lens of a woman as
Right.
opposed to an aggregated view.
Yeah, I think you brought up an interesting point about the science-based rather than influencer-based. I just did a long article on how wellness has become this buzzword, this, and then it's dissected into probiotics and collagen and then this and that, and then perimenopause and there's so much of that out there, like you say. How do people, and the best influencers are great marketers, let's face it. They've got a team, they're looking good, they got their makeup on and their little suits. And there's a guy I follow, he does the videos of all the crazy people out there saying bad things about food. Broccoli's bad for you, water's bad. There's so much noise. And I can understand how people, A, they don't know how to do research, even if they had the time to do research. So to have a place, your place, my place, where people know that this is rooted in science, proven. Now, science not exclude for me, I don't exclude Western, Eastern medicine, the alternative to protocols that have been proven.
Mhm.
Those are all welcome. And I believe they probably will be at your place
Yes,
too.
integrated medicine, absolutely. I think is absolutely because I think that there's everyone's different and having their personalized view. It's just is it informed and evidence-based
Right.
and kind of structured in a way that takes women into account in the research. Those are our criteria at the highest level.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you made a really important point I would like to pick up on, which is part of the noise. There's noise everywhere, and a lot of it is just because of the channels that are so open now. But part of the noise is that women are actually growing in economic influence. So women, in aggregate, there is a $38 trillion wealth transfer that's
Hmm.
happening, that's going to women, partly because they live longer. They've worked as opposed to prior generations. There've been more women in the workforce. They're more educated. So they have a bullseye on their back in terms of
Yeah.
being a community that is being sought after. So
Hmm.
I think that is another sort of specific piece of why a lot of the noise and the confusion around the resources and tools that are serving women is especially high pitched.
That's a really good point I hadn't thought of. I want to just give a moment to the men because there are men, there will always be men in the world, right? And your partner, Steve McKibben,
Yes.
on his LinkedIn page, he ends by saying about your project, and where men can stand as thoughtful partners in creating spaces where women can thrive. So that is so beautiful. And I believe that there are lots and lots of those men in small roles, just in every day as a partner, and in bigger roles in your world, CEOs and stuff. But how will you have men writing for the project? Are you going to be exclusively women?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We will have men starting with Steve and moving outward. And it is not, and I think the whole point is we are all back to dignity. It's not specific to women. So I think for men and women to honor each other is just having a better understanding of what their needs are. So this is not about excluding men or even excluding men from having access to the platform. If you want to be informed about what your mother, sister, what your partner is needing, that's absolutely welcome. And having their input is important to us understanding what we have to do. So beginning with Steve, we felt it was really important to have a leader on the team demonstrate that.
I love that. And
He
men do
does
have a
too. He
different,
does.
I'm sure he does. He's surrounded by all these smart, very cool women too. I was going to ask you about the dignity report. What is the dignity report? Because it's on your website, and if people see it, I want them to understand it.
Yes, we're actually, so it has three portions to it. We're in the middle of assembling it. And if you take a big step back, the Dignity Report is really a way to aggregate what we're learning from our platform so that we can feed it back to drive systemic change. So at the same time that we're helping women individually. So a woman comes to our platform, or a group of women to come to our platform, and they get access to resources, they get access to tools, they can map the transitions that they want to make, and it evolves with them. And those resources are personalized. And we can talk more about that. But as they navigate that and as they're engaging with the platform and the community on the platform, we're aggregating not individual, but just aggregate data that helps us present back to society what really women are looking for and how they're looking for it. So underneath the Meraki Dignity Report is really the idea of power. So power is if we have something that others want, if we can aggregate that, share it, we can turn that into power and change the way we're served. So a health system that we serve the dignity report to, we provide those insights, they can now say, wow, maybe we need to serve women in this way. Or a
Mm.
financial services provider who typically will talk to the man in the room or talk about philanthropy through the lens of giving back to your university might actually recognize that women are much more community oriented in
Yeah.
terms of their giving behaviors.
Mm.
Reorient how they engage with a woman client as a financial provider, services provider, in a way that a woman wants to be acknowledged. So
Mm.
it's the report is essentially aggregating all of that from our research, from our platform, and from our insights into a report that we can share back more broadly to drive system change.
And
Yeah.
if I believe anybody has access to that once it's published, yeah.
Yes, that is a free report that we would give access to people.
Yeah, I think that would be, I just had to spend a little bit of time in the hospital and I wanted to write
Oh.
so many letters to different departments, and your data will be fabulous
I think
because
if you could come onto our platform and share with us,
trust me, I would be
we will
happy to tr
aggregate that. Yeah, I think and that is back to thinking about putting the woman at the center or putting the user at the center and really helping. I certainly don't think every system provider or organization is doing that intentionally. It's
no.
just they haven't had access to that insight. And that's one of the things that AI for us is really just underneath what we're doing. We're not
Hmm.
creating an AI conversationalist. It's really more how do we use AI to be able to gather, aggregate, and serve back all that huge amount of information to drive the change, like in your healthcare providers example or otherwise.
Yeah, and I certainly, again, I'm not bashing them or anything. They're doing what they
Yes.
believe based on some research somewhere, probably many years ago, and probably on men, that this is what should be. Anyway, tell me what I didn't ask you about the Meraki Project that you would like to share with my listeners.
I think that what I would share is that we're looking at co-creating this. So it's very important for us. And that's why we're here. That's why we're talking about the beta, because it is fairly early stage, but we have a fairly robust beta coming June 1st. And that early June, I should say, because our developers would probably
Don't
say,
ever
don't say
say
June
the
1st.
exact number.
Exactly. They'll say early June. And we are looking for it to be co-created with the women who are engaged on our platform. So we really are looking for insight and guidance. And that's how the experience is structured. So you'll come on, answer some questions through an onboarding experience. Our AI navigator or your AI guide is named Sophie, and she will help you build out your map, which is to give you a sense of where you want to focus and also guides the resources that we serve up to you. And you can continue to engage with Sophie as you could set your own goals. We're not setting goals for you. You can decide where you want to focus. Sophie may look at it and say, wow, you really based on what you're saying, you're really rethinking your career, but you're like, look, I want to focus on my health. That's where I want to be. She gives you the tools to do that. And then finally, you can then take that and she'll identify some communities on the platform that have people that are in similar places with you, and you can engage with them. So it's a place where we don't have the answers. We're just trying to provide the resources and the fertile ground to learn along with everyone else on how we can best fortify women and so that they can find their Meraki.
And I read somewhere on the site that you're not offering coaching, you're not offering medical or financial advice. You're just putting the resources there and having Sophie help women find the right resources for them.
Exactly. And our view is that if you have clarity, right? Because I think part of this is we don't even know. I'll speak for myself. When I was leaving or deciding what I wanted to do, I wasn't even sure what my first next step was. So just giving me the resources to see what's out there, see what the options are, think beyond the straw that I've been looking through in my life, and maybe taking it away and realizing, wow, there are a lot of other ways I can think about it, even if you may not have the financial resources, it's just the art of what's possible. So the clarity, we believe once you have clarity, you can start to feel confident. You can go into the doctor informed and asking for what you need. And with confidence comes agency, and that's where you can make those intentional choices. So it's not about someone scolding you or suggesting that there is a single path that you have to follow. It's really your own journey.
And helping women think rather than teaching them what you want them to think, right? I don't mean that we don't think everybody listening is clearly a good thinker. But like you said, when you didn't know where to begin with your first step, second step, but something helped you see through your straw. We have goats, and she had straw. And then, so something showed you how to think differently, is what I'm saying, to open the world of possibility to you. Yeah. Which I think is so important. And that's why I'm here sometimes you hear one thing and that's where it starts. You weren't thinking about it. You turned on the podcast today and somebody heard and went, wow, maybe I need to look at that. And then that takes them somewhere else. That's what I love about doing these things.
I think that's the whole point. It's the
Yeah.
knowledge and the insight and the ability to put yourself in places that allow you to learn and I think be curious and grow and feel as though your life isn't stuck. That you, particularly for women in midlife, where there's a lot of narrative around ageism and you no longer can work and all of the tropes that we hear. So having the ability to have a place that sort of presents you with the possibilities is what gets me excited.
And the word dignity came back. It dignifies the experience almost.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad you said that because that has been if we were to say, what do we want our platform to be like? We wanted to, and this may be too ambitious, but if we can just have a place where we're honoring dignity at every step and create a community that does that, can you imagine being able to model that? And perhaps even imagine a scenario where that gets replicated beyond a tech platform.
And for different ages, I'm thinking young women in their 30s, which is such a difficult time. And I can't even imagine being that age now. But imagine
Uh,
if there are more communities that support those women in their transitions.
Great. That is, in fact, I have a 30-year-old daughter.
I was going to say
And
she has another
so
project.
it actually, in what we found, and we've had to restrain ourselves, we found that that cohort, those women in their early 30s and are eager and anxious and comfortable in the technology
Mm.
to feel that they would jump onto that platform. But I felt specifically, I'm so proximate to women at midlife
Yeah.
that that was the right place to start. But I agree. So I leave it up to someone to start doing that for women at a younger age as well.
Is your daughter busy? No, I'm kidding.
They never want to do what mom tells
No,
them
no,
to.
no, totally joking on that one. Stephanie George, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. For the listeners, again, it's merakidignity.com. If you want to join the beta, anybody's welcome. You can sign up right on the site. Even if you don't want to do anything further, I would imagine that you'd just love people to answer a few questions to get some information about them.
Absolutely. Just give it a shot. No cost. Just teach us.
All right, I have joined. I can't wait to get the questions.
Thank you.
Thanks again. And people, I'll be back next week with another fabulous guest, and I hope that you'll be well till then.